It's the flashback sale at Mattress Firm. Right now, get up to $400 off throwback deals on beds. Plus, we're celebrating the year we were founded with a special price from 1986. A Sleepy's Queen mattress for just $169. Talk about a totally bodacious deal. But hurry in, these awesome blasts from the past savings won't last forever. Your budget stretches further at Mattress Firm. Restrictions apply. Valid at participating locations only. For offer details, visit mattressfirm.com/sale.
Prepare for glory!
I don't know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
I came out the womb, I was ready.
And he's hit the end zone for an unbelievable touchdown.
I would be honored if you played football for this team.
Throw it up above his head. They can't jump with me. Golly. Oh, they tackle him at the 40-yard line.
Who can make a play? I can. Who can make a play? I can.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast, proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. You can find them at FTFPodNet on Twitter. You can find me at SportsFanaticMB on Twitter. And, of course, you can find my illustrious co-host, Mr. Dennis Bennett, at Culture_Coach on Twitter. You can also find our podcast and many others, such as Jim Day of FF Champs, Adam Ronas, and Dr. Roto of SiriusXM, Bob Lung of the award-winning Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, Anthony Servino of FF Faceoff, and many great other podcasts on the FullTimeFantasy.com website. Check them out. All kinds of wonderful fantasy content for you guys on there today. For today's episode, we will be talking about our top 24 running backs. That's right, top 24. We did our top 24 quarterbacks in the last episode. Today, it is time to focus on the running backs. Of course, before I bring Dennis in here to talk about our top 24 running backs, we want to remind you that Dennis will be at the Midwest Fantasy Football Expo on August 18th at 12 o'clock at the Canton Cultural Center in Canton, Ohio. Amazing other podcasts will be there, guys. RotoViz, Fantasy Footballers, Dynasty Nerds, the Full-Time Fantasy Network, the network that we are a part of, the Ball Blast Girls, all kinds of other, I believe, Fantasy Diehards, a lot of other players and people are going to be there. There will be an after party. It is going to be a ball. Go there, show up. All kinds of free swag in the swag bag worth hundreds of dollars if you use our code KNIGHTS, KNIGHTS. You guys will get $5 off your tickets. Tickets are currently on sale for $20, which means you only have to pay $15. Again, you will get a free swag bag of over $100 worth of stuff anyways, so you're getting your money back right then and there. Definitely stop by our booth, the Fantasy Roundtable booth. Dennis will be there with all kinds of swag and all kinds of other cool stuff. Wish I could be there, but Dennis will be there representing us. We also will be at the Fantasy Football World Championship September 5th through the 8th in Las Vegas.
Gentlemen, welcome to Las Vegas. Is that right? Everybody eating? Good. Everybody sober? Close enough.
Remember, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Except for herpes. That shit'll come back with you.
Some guys just can't handle Vegas.
Fantasy Football Roundtable will be recording live on Radio Row on September 6th and 7th from the Palms Resort in Vegas. So if you guys have a chance to come out there, definitely come by and hit us up. We might even get you on live with us on the Radio Row on the Fantasy Football Podcast. And then we will be doing some live stuff from Twitter as well. With all that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get Dennis in here so we can start talking about our running backs and some NFL news.
Hello!
What's going on, Dennis? How was your weekend?
Man, I had a great weekend. Had a live, in-person Dynasty startup draft for the for fuck's sake. That's what I call it. The Oh for fuck's sake league, but it's actually the Ohio Fantasy Football Analyst Draft. Had some very cool people in that, Charles Chill, Mr. Scott Connor, and Mean Mr. Mode, Brad Rays, DFF Madman, Jeremy Browen's in the league, Curtis Goff, gosh, Slime Sucking Hogs, all these cool people from Twitter. The third Mike from the Fantasy Football Breakdown, Bob Lung, Mr. Consistency himself.
Very nice. Yeah, I saw the picture of you guys up there. That looked very cool. I imagine it was a lot of fun having all those experts there.
Oh yeah, Chris Allen and Jay Mike Check. It was pretty phenomenal.
Who are the studs that you built your team around with that draft?
Well, that draft, or that league, I should say, is a Superflex league. Start 11 players, but you are only required to start one at each position.
Oh, okay.
So I was in the 11th position, and I come out of the gate pretty hard. I went, where's my team here? So I came out of the gate and selected Joe Mixon with the 11th pick. Came around the turn and grabbed Nick Chubb. So I started off running back. Came back in the third round at the 11th pick of the third round and went Aaron Jones. And turned the corner and went David Montgomery. I started off with 4 running backs.
Wow. So who'd you take as a who's your, I guess, best wide receiver, and what round did you get them in?
My wide receiver 1 is Allen Robinson.
All right, not bad.
Yeah, and when I looked at it, I was at the 11th position, and I thought, I'm not. It was Kentucky Derby style, so I had I was like the 6th pick, and the first 5 people all went 1 through 5. So I knew right then I'm out on any of the big 4 running backs.
Right.
Unless I make a trade, I'm out of it. So I went ahead and selected the 11th spot so I could be near the back turn. Thought I'm going to go for it there, and let me just see what happens. I went Allen Robinson with my 5th pick. At that point, there were 12 or 13 quarterbacks off the board, and I took Josh Allen in the 6th round as my QB1.
Oh, I love that value on Allen. I love Allen this year. I think he's going to be an awesome quarterback.
Well, and then I followed up with Alshon Jeffrey in the 7th, and then Drew Brees in the 8th. It's a dynasty league, and I know it's easy to poo-poo the veterans, but I think Alshon is going to have a good year. Mm-hmm. I think Wentz likes him. He's a big receiver as long as he can stay healthy. Robbie Anderson is my wide receiver 3. You got Michael Gallup, Zay Jones, Equinemius St. Brown. I did kind of miss on my tight end targets a little bit, and in the 9th I ended up going with Mark Andrews. I like Andrews a lot, so I was okay with that. Got Andy Dalton as my 3rd quarterback. Other running backs I picked up, Nyheim Hines, Matt Breida, Mike Davis. And then we're in like the 19th round, and I'm like, you know what? I've had guys that I've liked the last few rounds that I've said, well, I'm going to wait one more round on them. And they didn't make it back to me. And so I was like, screw it. It's the 11th pick of the 19th round. I'm just going to start taking my guys. So who do you think I went for?
Ooh, that late? One of your guys, Quadri Allison?
That is right.
All right,
that's exactly who I drafted. Who do you think I went for at the 2002?
Wide receiver or running back? Because if it's wide receiver, my guess would be Preston Williams.
That's exactly who it was. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to take my guys here now. These are, I believe in these 2 guys. I think they're going to get some opportunity. We're in 20 rounds into a 30-round draft. I've got a good starting 11. I've got a 3rd startable quarterback. The only thing, Delaney Walker is my 2nd tight end, so I think I might need to build a little bit of tight end depth, but I feel really good about my team. So, it's a 0.15 per carry as well. So those first 4 running backs should push for 17 to 20 carries a week. So that's going to give me 2.5 or 3 points a week right there as a little bit of a boost. So I feel like I've built a pretty good team. That I'm not sold on Drew Brees as my 2nd quarterback. When we did our quarterback rankings on the last show, I was pretty low on him because I feel like their volume is going to come down some. Yeah. I think last year was sort of the beginning of a trend where he's going to be a great NFL quarterback the next few years at the end of his career, but maybe not a great fantasy quarterback. But I really felt that I needed to take a shot, and it was late enough. The quarterback, I wasn't going to get any. There really wasn't anything better at that point than Drew Brees, so I went with Brees there.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I had him a lot higher than you did. Obviously, I think he's going to be good for at least a year or two. I'm assuming that you said it was a dynasty, right? Not a redraft.
It is a dynasty.
All right, so you'll be able to get a quarterback or so probably in the next couple years draft. Maybe, I guess, depending on how competitive your team will be. Because I imagine.
Yeah, man, it was tough. I was targeting Dak and Cousins, and I got sniped on both of them.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, though. I'm glad it looked like a lot of fun from the pictures that I saw and everybody talking about it. So I'm glad you guys had fun up there doing that.
Yeah, and how about you? How was your weekend?
I mean, it was all right. I tore my hamstring, as we talked about right before we started recording, so I did a whole lot of nothing. Got to play some Madden for a little bit, so
Sucks getting old.
It does, yeah. Well, you know what? I'll be honest. I don't know if it's the old part. Probably part of it is. I was an idiot, and I was gossiping like a little schoolgirl about some stuff that had happened at my job, and I didn't stretch. And so then, first at bat, I drilled the ball over the right fielder's head. Go to try and score on it in the park home run, and step on second base. And my hamstring just went. So yeah, it's pretty bruised, pretty swollen, but that it is what it is. I've been icing it, and hopefully I'll be able to play by Friday. We'll see what happens. I like to risk it, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, all-time catcher.
No, not at all. Not at all. I hate playing catcher. I refuse to play. I'll retire before I go to catcher. But anyways, that's enough about our weekends. Let's jump in and talk about the breaking news or NFL news that's happened over the weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Alright, so for starters, the biggest news that came out this weekend was obviously A.J. Green tearing ligaments in his ankle. He is being sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks. There is another report that came out that said if he decides to go the surgery route, he would be out for upwards of 12 weeks. For dynasty owners, if you're a dynasty owner of A.J. Green, I would not panic too much. 6 to 8 weeks would mean he'd still come back fairly early on in the season. However, I do think that means he's going to be playing with this injury most of the season. And as we've seen over the past couple years, A.J. Green and foot-ankle issues are not great. I personally do not think that this is great news for Tyler Boyd. In fact, I know this may be hearsay to say, but I would almost try and trade Tyler Boyd right now because I don't think his value could get any higher, except for, I guess, maybe if he goes and balls out the first couple weeks of the season. But getting the new contract and A.J. Green going down, a lot of people are going to think Tyler Boyd is going to step up and be the alpha male in this offense. While I do love Tyler Boyd and think he will take another step forward this year, we have not seen him really succeed without A.J. Green on the field, so I am a little worried about that. Dennis, your thoughts on A.J. Green and his injury?
Well, I think it really sucks for A.J. Green and for A.J. Green owners. I was looking forward to to him having a nice season, getting Dalton back, and it seems like Zach Taylor is cursed. He's lost a couple offensive linemen to injuries and retirement. Now A.J. Green. It's one of those situations where it may be a rough first year. It's going to come down to I don't think Green is going to get surgery, and they kind of made it sound like he's probably going to miss the first game, maybe 2. I think if they're smart, they'll hold him out as long as they can just to not push him. I don't know how many mental reps he's going to need switching the offense for the first time in his career. Well, I guess they've had other offensive coordinators, but Marvin Jones Lewis was his coach for his entire career. So there is an opportunity that maybe it'll hurt him a little bit because he's not going to get those reps. Tyler Boyd, I kind of buy the argument that he didn't really step up when Green got injured last year. The counterpoint to that is that in the 4 games when Green was out and Boyd was playing, Andy Dalton missed 2 of them with injuries, so that kind of shrinks that sample size a little bit. So the possibility is there that maybe Boyd does step up, but I agree. I don't know that his value is going to get a whole lot higher. I kind of thought maybe this was going to be an opportunity for John Brown to step up and show that, hey,
John Ross.
Gosh darn it, I'm just messing up names. John Ross to step up and kind of take that 3rd-year leap and show that he could be a thing. But now he's out for a couple weeks with a hamstring injury, and that's going to put him aside. So, who's next? Is Alex Erickson going to be the guy? He's probably going to be the slot guy, and that's going to leave the 3rd outside position up. It could benefit Gio. Gio could get more passing reps. Maybe Josh Malone will finally step up. He was a big kid out of Tennessee who's battled injuries his first couple years. Auden Tate, another big kid. He's out of Florida State. Missed most of last year. He's not a fast guy by any stretch. He's a little Kelvin Benjamin-esque. But, we did see Kelvin did put up some productive seasons. So it could work out that one of those guys step up and become fantasy relevant.
Yeah, I was going to say Gio's the guy for me. I think he will really be able to kind of benefit, especially as we talked about out of the backfield. His receiving ability is really good. He's getting extremely overlooked in drafts. We talked about him in the sleeper episode. He's going extremely late in most drafts. He's a guy that I would target now, especially with all of these injuries. And
Taylor has said he wants to get Gio 10 to 12 touches a game. So, the possibilities there. Who might be able to step up on the outside? That is, as I look at the depth chart,
who's that?
Rookie Stanley Morgan Jr.
I was going to ask.
Kind of
that's Garrett Price's guy right there. I know we talked about him a little bit on some of our rookie stuff, and Garrett's really been kind of pushing him on Twitter. So could be. I mean, he did get a lot of. I don't want to say hype, but there's a lot of people who watched his college film and what he did in college and liked him a lot. So maybe this is his chance to be able to get onto the roster, being an undrafted free agent. One of the other big stories that happened, we talked about it on the episode last time, that Zeke did not get on the plane to Oxnard, California. We weren't sure if he was going to exactly hold out as we recorded that episode on Thursday, and the physicals were not until Friday. He is holding out. He has not shown up. Just literally, I would say probably 15 minutes before we started recording, there was an article released by, I think it was Pro Football Focus, for Jerry Jones coming out and saying that you don't need the rushing champ to win a Super Bowl. I can't begin to explain how much I disagree with that, especially with the format of their team. Their offensive line and the way that their team is built is really built to run the ball and play defense right now, because their quarterback is, I would say, okay to maybe good, and their head coach is subpar at best, I think. So the fact that you're saying you don't need the rushing champ to win the Super Bowl, I think is kind of stupid. I get why he's probably saying that, to try and show Zeke that they're not going to pay him. But I think in the end they're going to have to if they want to keep him. So do you have any thoughts on the Zeke holdout and Jerry Jones's comments?
Well, I think that's Jerry kind of doing what he has to do. He's already said that he intends to pay his guys. He envisions them as the new triplets. It's just not going to be Zeke's turn until the other two get taken care of. And it doesn't do Zeke any good to hold out past August 6th, because it doesn't get him any closer to free agency.
Yeah.
So, he's going to push it as long as he can, I think. He's going to go hang out in Mexico and, spend some time on the beach drinking margaritas. And next thing you know, he's going to show up at camp so he can get paid. And they'll take care of Dak, and they'll take care of Amari, and then they'll move on to Zeke.
Really quick, quick, not necessarily a big news item, just wanted to touch on Cam Meredith did get cut from Saints camp. He's obviously someone a lot of people, including myself, were very high on after his great year with Chicago a couple years ago and going to New Orleans after that horrible knee injury. We'll see if he bounces back anywhere, but that's kind of a big blow for him. And Dennis, you had one story that you had mentioned really quick that you thought might be of some interest.
Norv Turner came out today and is talking about wanting to be smart with Christian McCaffrey's touches. And so I think this is where we cue everybody panicking about Christian McCaffrey's touches like they are about Todd Gurley's touches. I don't know. While McCaffrey doesn't have the existing knee condition, it makes sense to manage, especially early in the contracts of these guys, to manage their touches. Yeah, you need to use them as much as you need to win. But if you can, instead of giving them 25 carries, give them 20 carries. Or instead of giving them, 28 total touches, give them 22 or 23 total touches. That makes sense if it's not preventing you from winning. So I don't think it's. I think it might gain a little traction, but it's really what most teams do anyways, and so I think they'll limit him in practice. I don't know who they're going to put in there. Is it going to be, Cameron Artis-Payne or Jordan Scarlett or Elijah Holyfield? Did they sign another pass-catching back that's not coming to mind real quick? Because Scarlett and Holyfield aren't pass-catching backs, that's for sure.
Yeah, not at all. Alright, so that right there will do it for today's breaking news or NFL news segment, and we will jump into talking about our top 24 running backs.
Man of 7, Beckham's 8th reception. Now Barkley up the middle, cuts to the outside. Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown.
Second down and 10, takes the snap, gives it. Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba-lubba hub!
Their first drive in the second half.
Begins with Elliott, breaking it into the secondary, and it's a foot race, but he will not be touched.
Wondering what his 60-yard time is? Check it out.
Alright, so much like the last episode that we did where we talked about our top 24 quarterbacks, today we're going to talk about our top 24 running backs going into the 2019 offseason. Again, much like I talked about in the quarterbacks episode, this could change and likely will change as we move closer to the season. We'll give one final update right before the season starts. Again, luckily, not a lot of these guys have... none of these guys have suffered any injuries, at least none of the guys on my list, although 2 of the guys on there are currently in holdout, so we'll see how that affects them. I expect both of them will eventually play, but we will kick it off first with you, Dennis. Who is your 24th ranked running back for 2019?
Well, it's like Brokeback Mountain, and I just can't quit him. So it's Kenyon Drake at number 24. I'm not buying the Kalen Ballage hype, getting first-team reps. I just don't think Ballage is an effective NFL back. He doesn't have good vision. He's not very powerful for as big as he is. You get him in space where he doesn't have to, where he's got time to see people coming. Then he's going to end up being able to do something, but he's not going to create too much on his own. He doesn't see the hole very well. So to me, it goes back to Kenyon Drake, who does all of those things. He breaks tackles. He gains yards. He can catch the ball. He probably needs to work on his pass protection just a tad more, and bring that up. But Drake is a dynamic player with the ball in his hand, and Miami is in dire need of playmakers.
Yeah, so I almost had Drake at 24. In my last move of the updates, I moved him up just a couple spots, but I did actually have him at 24, so I thought that was kind of funny. For me, it's David Montgomery. I love Montgomery and his landing spot in Chicago, and he's probably, out of my entire list, there's 3 guys on here that I'm not sure if I gave them enough justice, and he's one of them for me. Because I'm just a little worried about Tariq Cohen. I don't think he's going to steal many rushes away from him, but I do think he'll steal some work in the passing game, where David Montgomery is an extremely good receiver. We saw that in college. But if he does lose some of that work, I think that's going to limit some of his upside right now. But I love Montgomery. I love him in this offense. I think he's going to be a stud. I know a lot of people probably are a little worried about him because of what Jordan Howard did, but I think David Montgomery is a perfect fit for Matt Nagy's offense. So David Montgomery comes in at number 24. For me, who do you have at 23?
23, I got your guy, Philip Lindsay.
Oh, I had Philip Lindsay as 23 as well.
Man, I'm still a Royce believer, but I think Lindsay showed enough last year that they're going to try to give him every opportunity. The offense has changed with the new offensive coordinator. It's not the same offense, but I think they're going to give Lindsay more opportunity in the passing game, and he can break some tackles for being 5'9" and 205 pounds.
Yeah.
So he showed that he could run the ball, and he was dynamic last year. So I'm going to give him some props, and I'm going to put him in there at 23.
Yeah, I mean, he, as I just said, he finishes 23 for me. Finished 13 last year with 222.8 points in fantasy. Again, obviously got hurt at the end of the last year, and actually he's already started out this year a little bit hurt. Nothing major. Apparently got hurt at the chiropractor. To be honest, I think that's the only thing that likely slows him down this year. We've talked about it many times. It's not that I don't believe in Royce Freeman. I thought he was a really good back coming out of college as well. And I still think that he is. I just think Philip Lindsay is more explosive compared to what Royce Freeman is. So unless Philip Lindsay gets an injury, I don't know how much of it splits, but there's a very realistic possibility that Philip Lindsay does get hurt again. He is a smaller back. I would love to see him do more in the receiving game, though. That was one of the things that I said I thought he would excel at the NFL level. He has come out and said that he wants to do more in the receiving game as well. So I am excited to see if that can happen for him, because if it does, I think he could easily blow this projection of 23 out of the water for both of us. Who do you have at 22?
At 22, I'm rolling in with good old Darius Geis, bouncing back from last season's ACL tear. Geis is a very powerful runner. He seems to be a student of the game, and Washington doesn't have a proven set of receivers. So I think Geis is going to start the year off sharing time with Adrian Peterson while he gets that knee healthier, while he gains confidence in it, while he builds up more of the functional strength. He's already showing that he's pretty well back, and Adrian Peterson came back from the same injury very quickly. So he's out there working with Adrian Peterson. He's following Peterson around like a puppy, trying to absorb everything he can. Washington needs to figure out that left tackle situation. If Trent Williams isn't going to come into camp, they need to get somebody in there.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think Geis is going to be the number one option in this offense until they show that they can throw the ball.
All right, so for me at 22, I have Derrick Henry, I've never really been a believer of him. He's already hurt and in a walking boot. I know it's nothing serious, and he really doesn't have anybody necessarily pushing him for carries there in Tennessee. Finished as the 16th running back last year with 201.3 points. Again, a lot of that coming at the end of the season where he has done what he did last year multiple years in a row now. I think it's 3 years in a row where the back half of the season he is just taken off and just all of a sudden look like the guy that we saw at Alabama. I just don't believe that he can do that over a full season. I know a lot of people are in on him, and they're buying that he's going to be the workhorse in a very run-heavy offense there for the Tennessee Titans. I just don't see it because whether it's Marcus Mariota or Ryan Tannehill back there, they don't, in my opinion, outside of A.J. Brown, who we didn't talk about, but Dennis did bring up before the podcast that he has already missed 3 practices because of his slip. They just don't have a very good wide receiver core, in my opinion, so I think that the defenses are going to be able to focus in on Derrick Henry more than having to worry about the passing game, because, again, as much as I like Mariota and Tannehill, neither one of them are going to light up the scoreboard, in my opinion, throwing the ball. So I think Derrick Henry is just going to have another mediocre season compared to the top 12 hype that he's getting from a lot of people in the fantasy industry. Who do you have at 21?
Rolling in at 21, I have the aforementioned Derrick Henry.
All right.
I just feel like his volume is going to put him over Darius Geis, over Lindsey, over Drake. They're going to feed him the ball as long as he is healthy and stays healthy. I think Deion Lewis is going to be more of a sprinkle-in kind of guy, not a regular. He isn't going to get every third series or something. He's going to get some passing down work. He's going to get the occasional handoff. I think they know what they have in Derrick Henry, and so they don't intend to re-sign him unless it's at a deep discount. And so until his contract is up, I think they're just going to they've seen that they've got a battering ram, and they're going to batter him.
All right, so for me, it seems like we have a lot of the guys right here in the same area. I have Kenyon Drake just ahead of him. Again, last year finished with 206.2 points at RB14, so just ahead of Derrick Henry. And I'm right there with you. I've been a Drake fan and believer for probably just as long as you have. Not a believer in Kalen Ballage. I have not been at all, ever. I know that he blew up the combine and everybody was excited about his physical prowess and everything. I don't buy it. He was never really able to produce in college that well. A lot of coaches said that he was lazy and didn't seem to pay attention to the game plans, and he never really seemed to improve. I mean, for me, that's a big red flag. I do think he's going to get some work. I know there's already reports out that he's running with the first team. Doesn't worry me that much. I do think Kenyon Drake is going to be the guy. The only reason I have him this low is because I just think Miami's offense is going to be bad, and I mean very bad. And so I think that's going to limit some of his points and his upside and touchdowns especially, but I don't think it's going to be much of a battle between him and Ballage. I think it's going to be more of a 70-30 or 80-20 split in Drake's favor. Who do you have at 20? Did we just do 21? I'm already lost. I'm really bad at keeping track of this.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at 20, I have Leonard Fournette.
Oh, man, you got him dropped down far. All right, tell me why.
Well, I think that he is, he's Derrick Henry at 75%, basically. He's less efficient than Henry. I don't know that I don't think he's as good a receiver as Henry. I think the two of them probably are better than they get credit for, but I think Henry's a little bit better. And I think Fournette, as I say all this, I'm thinking maybe I've got him backwards. But honestly, I think that what Fournette gets the edge because I believe that Jacksonville's overall offense is going to be better, which is going to give Fournette a little more opportunity to be more efficient, maybe catch a few more passes than Henry will. And so I kind of, we're kind of in this situation here around, the 20, 21, 22, where it could shake out just about any way. So I like Fournette as a low end RB2. And so if I'm getting him around, pick 50, maybe a little higher, a little lower, I think that's a reasonable place to get him. For me, I don't know. I don't think I'd get him because I feel like most people would value him a little bit higher than that. See, looking at the full-time fantasy ADPs, where do they have Mr. So Fournette's coming off the board at 30, so it'll be middle of the second round. So I'm probably not going to have any Fournette there or middle of the third round, excuse me. I'm probably going wide receiver or younger running back. But that's where I have him.
Gotcha. All right, so for me at 20, I have Darius Geis for many of the reasons you were just talking about. First of all, I don't know if anybody saw his interview he did with NFL Network. I think it was on Sunday morning or Saturday morning. Dude is jacked. And I mean Saquon's jacked. I think he almost put Saquon's quads to shame. It was ridiculous how loaded that dude was. I think it was D'Angelo Hall they had on there was talking about how big of a deal that is when you have an ACL injury, because to be able to recover from that and bounce back, your quads need to be really good to kind of bear the load, especially when you're still trying to rehab. So he said he thought that was a really good sign. Really, the only thing that worries me is much about the same as Kenyon Drake. I just don't know what this offense is going to look like. I mean, this offensive line is one of the best in the league when they're fully healthy, but you've already got the talks, obviously, of everything with Trent Williams, that he might be gone. Redskins are saying that everything is fine, but then he said earlier in the season that he wanted to be traded because he didn't like the way that the franchise had been treating him. You got probably a rookie quarterback in Haskins there, and then you've got Chris Thompson and Adrian Peterson competing for carries. I've always lived under the motto that the best player is going to get the snaps, and I think that is Darius Geis. However, Chris Thompson, contract year, they might just try and throw him out there to get a lot of receptions, which will diminish some of Geis' value. And then again, they did sign Adrian Peterson to a 2-year contract. I don't think that they signed him just to put him on the bench. And I do think that they want to try and keep Geis healthy. So I do think that Peterson is going to get some run just to kind of limit or maybe slowly work Geis in. So if they do limit some of his workload or hold him back just a little bit at the start of the season, obviously he's going to lose you some fantasy value there. So that's why I have him as low as I do. Who do you have at 19?
At 19, I have Josh Jacobs. I think they want to give him the opportunity there in Oakland. But as I've mentioned many times before, I'm just not totally sold on him. I think Josh Jacobs is kind of just a better Kalen Ballage. He's a big back that's a good receiver, that's good in open space. He's got better vision than Ballage, but I don't know that he's necessarily the power guy or the 3-down back that a lot of people want him to be. I think this year he's going to get plenty of opportunity. I feel like Oakland wants him to be that guy. I'm just not sold that he is.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. He's not even in my top 24, so I give you applause for putting him in there. So for me at 19, I have your boy Marlon Mack. He finished as RB21 last year with 178 points, and obviously did miss a lot of games due to an injury. That is part of the reason why I dropped him. I don't necessarily trust that he is going to be stay healthy. He is obviously in an explosive offense and is going to be the workhorse running back as of now. I'm not so sure that he is as talented as others do. I do think Nyheim Hines is going to eat into his role some. I don't think Nyheim Hines is going to get a ton of carries, but I do think he'll probably get 5 to 6 a game with then obviously some receiving work as well, which I think is going to drop Marlon Mack down a little bit. He is, though, one of the other guys, much like David Montgomery, that I feel like maybe I didn't do enough justice in my rankings and probably could be moved up higher. But for now, I'm going to keep him all the way down here at 19. Who do you have at 18?
At 18, I've got my comeback player of the year candidate, Devonta Freeman.
Oh, okay.
I like Freeman to bounce back and have a good year. I think he's at that stage of his career, though, that he's not going to dominate backfield touches. I think they've shown that they're going to split the backfield up. They've got a good option in Quadri Allison, the rookie. Some people still like Ito Smith. Who was the other dude that came in there? Kind of bounced around the league. I can't remember his name. Hill.
Atlanta?
Brian Hill. Yeah. So I do think that they're going to give some touches away on a fairly regular basis, but I think Freeman will be able to, especially if they can give him more in the passing game than they have, maybe take some of the handoffs away and give them to the bigger Allison and let Freeman catch some more passes. So he gets his touches that way, which could produce additional yardage. I like Freeman to be, middle of the RB2 pack. So I have him right here at 18.
All right, at 18 for me, I have Mark Ingram, who's obviously now in Baltimore. Finished as RB32 last year with 142 points. I like Mark Ingram here in Baltimore. I do think obviously he's going to be the workhorse. My really biggest reservation with him and why I have him probably, I think really actually where I think he's actually going to finish. I don't think he can go much higher, and this is because of Lamar Jackson and Justice Hill. I think Justice Hill is going to steal a lot of the receiving work. He is a very explosive back. And again, I've said it many a times, I don't think he is Alvin Kamara, but I think he can be used somewhat like Alvin Kamara was used in New Orleans, and we just know Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball probably a lot. I hope that they don't, because I think that's probably going to end up him getting hurt, but I just don't see any other way to do it. I heard, I can't remember who the NFL quarterback analysis, I think it may have been Dan Orlovsky on ESPN at one point. I was listening to him talk about you can't force Lamar Jackson to be a pocket quarterback because that's just not who he is. If you do that, you're headed for disaster. You need to play the game and let him play the game that he has been, because that is who he is. And I don't disagree with that, because I do think trying to make him into a pocket quarterback is probably headed down a path of failure quicker than what he is right now. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, we know everybody who listens to this podcast knows me and Dennis are not huge fans of Lamar Jackson, so I do expect he's going to do a lot of the running as well, which is, again, going to limit some of Mark Ingram's upside, which is an ongoing theme here for some of my guys down here. So Mark Ingram at 18 for me. Who do you have at 17?
I have David Montgomery at 17.
Okay.
So, I think Montgomery's going to come in and have, he's going to lead the team in carries. He's a good pass catcher, so he's going to get opportunity in the passing game. Yes, Tariq Cohen is still going to get plenty of targets. I don't know if he gets what he had last year, but he's going to get plenty of targets. He's a weapon. They're going to use him. But I like Montgomery. He's been my rookie RB1 virtually all off season. I like his game better than Jacobs. I think he's a more well-rounded back. Maybe doesn't have the long speed that Jacobs has, but Montgomery is an elusive runner, and I think he's going to really provide good balance to the Chicago Bears offense.
All right, my 17 is going to be probably a little bit of a shock for some people, and in all honesty, I'm kind of surprised that I've got him lower than you. So for me, it's Damian Williams out of Kansas City. Came in last year as a RB48 with 98.6 points. Obviously did not play that much, though, because he was sitting behind Kareem Hunt. I almost forgot his name. I was about to call him Tyreek Hill for some reason. Behind Kareem Hunt, till obviously he got cut. I do like Williams, and I do think he has a chance to produce here. I think Carlos Hyde is going to... You have talked me into believing a little bit more into Carlos Hyde, which is just insane to me, although I do love him, being the Buckeye that he is. But I more so, I think this offense is going to take a little bit of a step back, as we've talked about many times with Patrick Mahomes taking a step back as well. I don't think that he's going to produce as a top 12 running back. I could see him outproducing 17, but I think he's likely going to finish closer to 20, which is why I've dropped him down to 17. Who do you have at 16?
At 16, I've got my guy Marlon Mack. Wow. He's a better pass catcher than he gets credit for. He caught the ball well in college. He's in an explosive offense. He's going to get plenty of opportunity. I don't think him finishing as an RB1 is outside the range of outcomes. He's got good size. Again, with him, it's going to come down to not getting too nicked up. If he can stay on the field, and I think he will, I think he's ready to go out and have a breakout for a full season. I think Marlon Mack is poised and ready to go.
All right, so man, I really want to know where you have Damian Williams now. I really thought that you would come in. No, tell me. Is he outside your top 24?
I'm going to get rid of the suspense right here. I don't have Damian Williams in my top 24.
Oh, man, so I did have him higher than you. All right, well, that's interesting. I figured you'd at least have him in your top 24. All right, so at 16 for me, I have Aaron Jones. Finished last year as RB24 with 171.5 points. Love Aaron Jones. Love him in this offense. Kind of a theme you'll see for actually my next 4 running backs that I have here on this list is injury history. Aaron Jones has yet to stay healthy for a full season. I love Dexter Williams being there. I don't think he's going to push for the starting job as some do, but I do think that he has a chance to push Jamal Williams out of a job and take some carries away from Aaron Jones. And if Aaron Jones is injured at some point in time in this season, I could see Dexter Williams possibly cementing a role there. I still think if and when Aaron Jones comes back from being injured, he'll still get a decent role there in a really good offense, though we don't know what the offense will look like with Matt LaFleur. Still has Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, a pretty decent offensive line. So again, really my biggest reservation with him is injury, which again you'll see is a common thread here with my next couple running backs. So who do you have at 15?
Well, before we go on to 15, I guess I want to let's recall your Mark Ingram ranking.
Okay.
So I don't have Ingram in my top 24 either.
Wow.
And it was a tough call for me. Probably Ingram probably I don't feel as strongly about leaving him out as I do Damian Williams. But Jim Harbaugh came out the other day and he was on the NFL Network Inside Training Camp Live, and Brian Billick brought up Cam Newton's 139 carries in 2017. And without hesitation, Jim Harbaugh said, I'd bet the over on that one.
Wow.
So those carries are going to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's Mark Ingram. So I feel like, I want to buy into Ingram. Because of the volume of that offense running the ball, it may not be quite the volume we expect, especially if, Justice Hill comes on, or there's been some good reports about Kenneth Dixon, who was a good 3-down back in college. If they're going to spell Ingram, Gus Edwards is his direct backup. So potentially Ingram, who's pushing 30 and always been a part-time back, maybe he's not going to get that full-time load that a lot of us were thinking. So, that's kind of why I didn't have Ingram. I don't have Ingram in there. Now, I just don't like Damian Williams as a talent. And so that's why he's left out of there. I just can't buy into him. So it's my turn to go 15. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, well, let me rebuttal really quick on Ingram. That is exactly why I said I had him that low, though, is the Lamar Jackson and Justice Hill argument that you just made there. My biggest thing with Ingram is, besides Lamar Jackson, I don't see anybody stealing goal line carries from him, if that makes sense. I do think Lamar Jackson is probably going to get some kind of goal line packages, although he's not Cam Newton, where Cam Newton can pretty much run anybody over and into the end zone. Lamar Jackson's not going to be able to do that. But I do think they'll do some kind of possibly wildcat plays or something to get Lamar Jackson into the end zone, in the red zone. But I think that's where Ingram's points are going to come from. And if he's scoring enough touchdowns in an offense that, regardless of what we think of Lamar Jackson, they've been a very good team all around, I guess is the way to put it, the past couple years, that defense is likely going to keep them in games. I don't see, again, as you were just talking about, neither one of us think they're going to be throwing the ball 600 times. My goodness, sorry about that. We don't see them throwing the ball 500 to 600 times, so it's going to be a run-based offense. So that's just kind of my thoughts on why I think Mark Ingram can finish right around the 20 mark. But yes.
All right, rebuttal accepted.
Okay, cool. All right, now you can go with your 15.
All right, at 15, I have Sony Michel. I think he's in line. Now, this is, again, it's going to go back to the same question mark you have on a lot of people, and that's health. Michel's got the knee. I think he's going to end up getting some of the quote-unquote veteran treatment in camp and in practice. They're not going to give him quite the amount of reps because they want to manage the knee condition. But they see what they have in him, and he's a really good back. I think Michel is in line for a 12 to 15 touchdown season and 1,000 yards. So I've got him at running back 15. I think he's going to put up surprisingly good numbers without catching a bunch of passes.
Interesting. So Sony Michel did not make my top 24. I actually have him exactly at 25. I thought about putting him up in there. My biggest concern with him is just the crap ton of other options in the backfield and his injury history. Obviously, we've talked about him before, and I've said many times, if he does what you think he is, he's going to be a stud this year. I just don't think that I can buy into it. That knee injury scares me a lot. And then obviously having Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead, James White all back there is just even more scary for me. I agree with you that I don't think he's going to get many catches regardless of if he's having a good year or not. He's going to get all his points from rushing and scoring touchdowns. So I could be dead wrong on Michel here. I will admit that, but I actually did not rank him in my 24. For 15, for me, I have Leonard Fournette. I do think he's going to finally have somewhat of a bounce-back season. Nick Foles, I think, is going to help him out a lot and actually give them, or defense is necessarily a quarterback to fear, that someone that can throw the ball down the field, where Blake Bortles was very inconsistent. I believe in DeFilippo, who came over from Philly and Minnesota, who was obviously in Philly with Foles when he won the Super Bowl, was calling plays with Doug Peterson and Foles right there. I think they've got a great connection. I love this wide receiver core. I think it's extremely underrated with guys like D.D. Westbrook, DJ Chark. If Marquise Lee can come back healthy, obviously they're missing a little bit at tight end, but with those wide receivers alone, if they can stretch the field a little bit and get some of those defenders out of the box, if Leonard Fournette can stay healthy, and I know that is a big if, I think he can finally kind of show us what we all hoped he would be coming out of LSU. Who do you have at 14?
At 14, I'm going to bet on Melvin Gordon only sitting out a few games.
All right.
I think he gets enough volume that even if he plays 12 games, he can still be a high-end RB2. He catches a lot of passes. If he comes back in week 5, week 6, and is in good enough shape, they're not going to hesitate to put him in, and it's just going to come down to whether or not he can stay healthy and not have that miss time injury bug hit. So I've got Melvin at 14.
All right, at 14 for me, I have Le'Veon Bell, who obviously is not sitting out this year. I could be wrong on Bell. I'll go ahead and say that now. He was the last guy that I have on my list that I think I might not have done justice to, but injury history and the fact that he has not played football in an entire year, add going into the New York Jets, who I think are going to be improved this year, but I don't love their offensive line. Sam Darnold, all the way back through college, and we saw it last year, is prone to throwing interceptions. I do think if he starts turning the ball over and the defense can't hold the teams that they're playing, they're going to start getting away from the running game. Now, yes, I understand Le'Veon Bell is a great receiver as well. Don't get me wrong. But so is Chris Herndon, and so is Jamison Crowder, who are all going to be working in the same area. So I do think that is going to steal some of Le'Veon Bell's touches away. Plus, Adam Gase is there. And last time we saw a good running back with Adam Gase, Kenyon Drake, he got fucked badly. We almost didn't know Kenyon Drake existed. Now, obviously, Le'Veon Bell is more talented than Kenyon Drake, but I would not be surprised if Bell gets Adam Gase in some way or form and kind of knocks him out of that top 12 range. So I've got him right there at 14. Who do you have at 13?
At 13, I've got the dynamic, the hopefully healthy for 16 games in the new offense, Mr. Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones' talent. I think he's an outstanding running back, and I feel like with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, it's gonna open up the offense to be able to have really, really good balance, and Aaron Jones to be able to carry the ball, score some touchdowns, rack up 5 yards a carry, and just be, a really, really good running back that if you get him in, like I got him in round 3 of the Ohio Fantasy Football Analyst Draft, and I was pleased as heck to get him at the 311. I think his, let me see what his ADP is there over on the Full-Time Fantasy. He is going at his ADP, that's Julio Jones, wrong Jones. So his ADP is 33, and I got him at, what did I get him at? 26, so a little bit of a reach according to the Full-Time Fantasy ADP, but I like him there. He wasn't going to make it back to, well, I guess at the turn, he might have made it back to me, so.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so for me, right outside of the top 12, I have Dalvin Cook. Again, as I said, injury here is kind of a running theme for these next couple guys. He's the last one right here. If he stays healthy, he's going to be much better than 13. I think this offense is going to be humming this year with Kirk Cousins in his second year here. Obviously, has 2 studs on the outside, a decent tight end in Kyle Rudolph, and a good backup in Irv Smith. Offensive line is going to be an issue, but we saw even when that offensive line was bad, Dalvin Cook was able to produce a little bit. We saw it a little bit at the end of last year, and obviously his rookie season before he tore his ACL. Love Cook this year. I think he has a chance to really bounce back and have a really good year in the receiving game and rushing game. And I don't really see anybody else vying for touches. I think Alexander Mattison, who a lot of people think is going to have, or is going to be a good rookie, I think is really solely a backup to Dalvin Cook. So I don't think he's going to come in and steal many touches from Cook this season. So give me as much Dalvin Cook as I can take. We're getting right there now. We're here. We're in our elite, our top 12 running backs. Interested to see where this goes between the two of us, because I know you haven't mentioned Dalvin Cook. There's a couple guys I've already mentioned, and some guys that you've mentioned neither one of us have. So let's kick it off. The last running back in Tier 1 at number 12. Who do you have?
My number 12 is James Conner.
Okay.
I probably am a little lower on him than a lot of people. Couple slots. I think Conner's a really good running back. I don't think he's elite. I think he's in a good system that puts him in a position to be able to make plays, gives him good short yardage opportunities at the goal line, lets him catch a few passes. I don't buy into Jalen Samuels taking over that backfield. I think Benny Snell is just going to be a backup. I like Snell in this system. I think the Pittsburgh offense is built for guys like Benny Snell, like James Conner. But I feel like Conner he's the best of the 3 backs in Pittsburgh, comfortably. I don't think, if he gets injured, the running backs that come in are going to do okay. I don't think they're as good as James Conner. So Conner did seem like he ran out of gas a little bit at the end of the season last year. So hopefully he can he learned from that and he's able to maintain his conditioning throughout the year. and not get dinged up and be able to finish strong this year. So I have James Conner at 12.
All right, at number 12, I have Melvin Gordon. Right there with you. I hope he doesn't hold out many games. I know the last report that came out is they're only off by like $2 or $3 million a year. That is kind of a big deal when it all adds up, depending on the length of the contract. But I'm hoping that they obviously get that done, even if he holds out a couple games. We've seen with the volume, Melvin Gordon can be a top 5, 6, 7 back. He's literally has lit up the fantasy world with the volume that he's gotten. So even if he does miss a couple games, I think once he comes back and gets back up to game speed, the volume that he will get, regardless of how good Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson have been in his stead, he will get all of the carries and most of the volume, and he's going to produce with it. So I think that'll easily jump him back up there. Obviously, again, a little lower than what he's finished the past couple years. Like I said, he's finished, I think, right around 5 to 8 every single year he's been in the league. So I got him down at 12, just in the thoughts that he might miss a game or two this year. Who do you have at 11?
At 11, I got my guy Kerryon Johnson from my childhood favorite team, Detroit Lions. Detroit's moving towards a run-oriented offense, I think, under Matt Patricia. Getting rid of Theo Riddick opens up passing opportunities for Kerryon Johnson, who's an excellent receiver, and he's a tough runner. I think that C.J. Anderson will be the change of pace back on running downs and get some touches, but it's going to be Kerryon Johnson as the lead back, and he's going to get plenty of opportunities to run the ball, to catch the ball, to score touchdowns. I think he presents Matt Patricia with a running back that he doesn't have to worry about bringing off the field, regardless of what the offense is trying to execute. And that's going to get, you can't make plays when you're on the bench. And so that's going to keep Kerryon Johnson on the field. And so I've got him. I'm expecting a big year out of Kerryon Johnson.
I'm right there with you. That is exactly who I have at 11 as well. I think even more so, the more I've thought about it, I think I guess I should ask you, man, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm stuttering all over the place today. Does the cut of Riddick make you want to move him up any at all? Because when I saw the news, I decided not to mess with my rankings after the other day because I didn't want to change him too much right now. But I felt like cutting Riddick and really kind of what feels like to me moving Johnson toward the main guy and being the workhorse here made me honestly want to move him up closer to 7, 8 than 11. Do you think 11 is like the perfect spot for him right now, or would you have moved him up knowing that Riddick was going to get cut?
For me, I think 11 is the right spot.
Okay.
When I look at the players I have in front of him, I'm comfortable with them finishing ahead of Kerryon Johnson. So could he end up higher? He could. He's an exceptionally good running back, and he's going to get opportunities. So him finishing as the RB6 or RB7 or RB3 is not out of the question. So if he stays healthy, he's going to get plenty of opportunity, but I'm not going to gamble on. When I look at the guys I have in front of them, there's only one that has a lingering injury, and I guess not lingering. Let's say an active injury that needs to be managed. So I like the guys I have in front of him, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him finish higher than 11.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think on my rankings right now, I would probably move him. I'd feel comfortable taking him over who I have at 10. So who do you have at 10?
I have Dalvin Cook at 10.
Okay.
Now, as much as I like Kerryon Johnson, the thing that gives Dalvin Cook the edge for me is that Dalvin has just this touch more of electricity to his game. And I think that the Minnesota offense is a notch better than the Detroit offense. So for me, that kind of sets it up to, when all things being equal, slightly more opportunity and is what puts Cook, and slightly more athleticism. It might not. I haven't looked at their athletic profiles on Roto Underworld recently, so I don't remember how they measure up. But I think Dalvin just has a certain dynamic to his game. Kerryon Johnson is more workmanlike, and maybe that's a very superficial way to view it. And I can accept that criticism. But I like Dalvin to just eke out Kerryon Johnson for the 10 spot.
All right. My number 10 is Devonta Freeman. I think
very
much like you, I think he has a bounce-back campaign. I think losing Tevin Coleman is a big thing for him. I think that's going to allow him to get a bunch of the carries. I know we have both talked about it before. Now, I do think Ito Smith is a little bit better than you do, but I don't think that he's going to steal many carries from Devonta Freeman. I think he might get some receiving work. And I know we talked about it a while ago, I don't remember when, about Quadri Allison, that we both like him. Obviously, you've been on him for a lot longer than I have, but we don't know for sure if he'll actually come in and take over that spot from Ito Smith right now. So I think that's what's going to lead to Devonta Freeman being the workhorse right now. They paid him. They want him to be that guy. Atlanta has they could be in the argument for the best offensive line in football right now. Obviously, great weapons on the outside and a great quarterback, great coaching staff all together there. I think that Devonta Freeman has a chance to bounce back big this year. Again, injury being the biggest question, but if he stays healthy, I've got him right there at 10. Who do you have at number 9?
Number 9, I have both of our hometown favorites. Nicholas Chubb coming in at number 9 for me. I feel like he is set up for an opportunity to really... Cleveland is going to have a high-powered offense, and so it's going to pull those safeties and those pass coverage linebackers away from the line. Cleveland has a good offensive line. They've got a couple questions that just a couple things that need to get worked out. If left tackle if Robinson continues to improve and show that, he was worthy of a first round pick a few years ago, maybe he just wasn't ready. If that can continue to grow, they've got a good offensive line. And they've got a quarterback that's going to make some stuff happen, and wide receivers that are going to keep safeties away. The safeties are going to have to be out there. And then when you add David Njoku, an athletic tight end that's a good blocker, but can also pull linebackers away from the line. Nicholas Chubb, he had some big runs last year, and he could have some more big runs this year. I'm not concerned about Kareem Hunt or Duke Johnson. I think Duke is going to get some opportunity, but it's going to be more along the lines of scheduled kind of change of pace things. Chubb's a good pass catcher. He's not as good as Duke. That's not what I'm trying to say. I don't even know if he's as good as Kareem Hunt. But he's going to be the lead back in a powerful offense, and he's going to get plenty of opportunity. And so I like Nicholas Chubb at number 9.
All right, at number 9,
you got?
I got Todd Gurley. And again, not because of the knee issue or injury. I don't think that's going to hold him back that much. I do think it's going to be them limiting his workload to make sure that he stays healthy and fresh because they want to win a Super Bowl. This is not the old school Rams that are just trying to win games and make the playoffs. This team and these guys all have Super Bowl aspirations, and to do that, they need Todd Gurley to be fully healthy. Now, obviously, nobody goes into the playoffs in the Super Bowl fully healthy, but they can limit some of his workload. They drafted Darrell Henderson. They have Malcolm Brown, John Kelly. I think that just that alone is going to drop him just a little bit. He's very much the comparison that's not necessarily fair to make because, in my opinion, he's 10 times more talented, is the volume he was getting is very much like Melvin Gordon. And if Melvin Gordon was just a little bit more talented, I think he'd put up points like what Todd Gurley was able to put up in Los Angeles. I don't think that's all Sean McVay. I just think that's because Todd Gurley is so damn talented. But I do think that volume is going to decrease, and with that decrease, I think is going to come a decrease in points. And I just think for me, the 8 guys I have above him are going to all be workhorses on very good teams outside of one player. But I do think that he is just going to be really the best offensive option that they have on that team, which is why I put him just ahead of him. So I'm dropping Gurley down to 9. Who do you have at number 8?
At number 8, I've got Le'Veon Bell. I don't think Bell should qualify as a comeback player of the year since he sat out in a contract dispute. But I think he's going to get, I understand Adam Gase is there, but I also understand that as much as I like Kenyon Drake, he's not Le'Veon Bell. And I think Bell is going to get volume in the running game. He's going to be the passing down back. He's a clear 3-down running back. As much as I liked Elijah McGuire, he's not Le'Veon Bell either. And I know there's talk about Ty Montgomery is looking good, catching the ball and being the 3rd down back. He's not Le'Veon Bell either. So Le'Veon Bell is going to be fresh. He's shown that he can handle the receptions, the carries, that he's the guy. And I think Le'Veon Bell is in a prime opportunity. The only thing that keeps him, I think, from being higher for me is that the New York Jets offense in general is probably going to be lower volume than the 7 offenses in front of it.
All right, so for me at number 8, I have Joe Mixon, and he was the one player that I was talking about that's not necessarily on a good team, although I did miss another guy I have a little bit higher that is also not on a good team, but he's super talented. So Joe Mixon, I think he is probably the best offensive weapon the Bengals have now, and someone that they're going to have to rely upon heavily. Obviously, they've lost Jonah Williams, their first-round pick, earlier this offseason, which is going to be a huge blow to that offensive line. We talked about that back when it happened. So that could possibly limit some of his points, but he has just been getting better and better every year. I do think Gio is going to have a good year as well. We have seen him be out with injury, which I think led kind of Mixon getting the workhorse touches that he did. But he's just such a phenomenal runner and obviously a really good receiver as well. With A.J. Green going down, probably I would think missing at least 2 games. My bet would be 3 or 4 if I had to put money on it. I think they're going to rely heavily on Mixon, especially if Boyd is getting double teamed there. So give me Mixon. I think he's going to have a very good year. Who do you have at number 7?
At number 7, I have Todd Gurley. I agree with what you were saying. I think they're going to manage Gurley's touches. They're going to manage his practice time. They're going to manage his preseason time. I think what I've heard is he's going to be on the preseason or the veteran program during preseason, meaning he's not going to play in any games. I don't know if that ends up being true, but I don't think he's going to play very much if he does play. But I do think Gurley is still going to get plenty of volume. He's too good not to give the volume to. And it's not like they need to worry about extending his contract again. They've already given him an extension. So he's probably not going to get another extension from the Rams. So what does it, where's the benefit for them to not play him if he's their best running back? So they're going to play him. He's probably not going to get 350 carries. He's probably not going to get 90 targets. But if he gets 70 targets, 75 targets, and 275 carries or 250 carries, if he cut 10 or 15% off of what he did last year, cut down his practice time, he's still going to be, he's going to stay healthier, minus some freak injury, and he's still going to be a high level running back. He's just too good.
All right, for me at 7, I have James Conner. So he finished as RB6 last year with 280 points. I think Conner is just going to run away with it this year. I know you were just talking about him a little bit ago, and he is the best running back in that backfield, and he is. He's a decent receiver, really good runner, and I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to throw the ball 600 times like they did last year. I think a lot of that was to keep their prima donna in AB happy. I don't think Juju, James Washington, Deontay Johnson are going to be out there complaining about not getting the ball. None of those guys seem to be those diva wide receivers. They seem to be more team-first guys. So I think that means that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get back to what they used to be when they had Jerome Bettis in running the ball and playing some good defense, and in that means James Conner is going to get a bigger workload than he had last year. Again, I know I have him taking technically a step back because I think Jalen Samuels showed that he could be a viable receiver out of the backfield, so I think he eats into some of that work. But all in all, I think James Conner continues to just cement himself as right around a top 5 back in the league this year, in a team that I think is going to go a little bit more run heavy than we've seen them do in the past couple years. Who do you have at number 5?
I believe we're at 6.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 6. You're right. I'm wrong.
So, can you cut that out and put it on a loop for me? I meant you are right and I am wrong.
No, that will be cut from the episode, actually. Go ahead.
At number 6, I have Mixon. And, I might be a little high on Mixon because of the injury situation to A.J. Green and the offensive line. The argument that that was made for the offensive line sustaining was Cordy Glenn is going to be the left tackle, and he was the left tackle last year. They lost Bowling, who was the left guard, who was pretty good, but not great, but he was pretty good. So they do need to replace that position. They drafted Michael Jordan out of Ohio State. He could turn out to be a solid guard. Billy Price is healthy. He's a good center. So the offensive line could be better than I think we're expecting. So if that turns out to be the case, then Mixon might be okay. He's going to catch some passes. He's a really good pass catcher. He's a great running back. He led the AFC in rushing last year. Was 4th in the NFL, led the AFC in rushing. Not having AJ Green could prove a little problematic, as it could allow safeties to creep up to the line of scrimmage. I don't know that Tyler Boyd is going to be able to keep people off the line. He's not AJ Green. He's good, but he's not AJ Green. But that being said, I like Joe Mixon, and so I kept him here at number 6.
Number 6 for me is Nick Chubb. I think that he is going to have a huge year. So, if you really go back and look at his year last year, he had a phenomenal second half when Hugh Jackson was gone. It was ridiculous. I know many of you probably are not Browns fans, so you might have seen the highlights from the huge runs that he had against Oakland, and I don't remember who the other team was that he had a huge breakout run against. I know one of them was Atlanta, but there was one before that as well. But he finished the year last year, even with all that, pretty much being on the bench. I think he got like a handful of carries over Carlos Hyde in certain situations. Finished as RB17 last year with 194 points. Again, when Freddie Kitchens took over and they traded away Carlos Hyde first, and then Freddie Kitchens took over, Nick Chubb was handed the ball a ton. Just missed 1,000 yards. Again, I think he is going to be able to eat. This offensive line is top 10-ish. They're not great, but they are not nearly bad or even close to average. They are a good offensive line. There's some question marks on it for doubt. No doubt there are question marks, but I do think this offensive line is going to be good this year. And when you have weapons like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway, David Njoku, and Rashard Higgins, and then Baker Mayfield back there, who is not afraid to sling the ball, those defensive backs and linebackers are going to be watching those wide receivers, which is going to allow Nick Chubb to likely get to that second level. I'm right there with you on the Kareem Hunt thing. I'm not worried about him one bit. At best, he comes back in week 10 or 11. You're already almost into your fantasy playoffs. He's not going to eat that much into Chubb's workload, in my opinion. We'll see what happens with Duke. I feel like I'm alone on the Titanic right now on the Duke Johnson bandwagon here, and that I don't think he's going to get traded. I think he's going to stick around. I saw a report, actually while we've been recording, that his agent is currently meeting with the Browns right now. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe that's them trying to work out a trade. But I don't think that they trade him. I don't think that they want to bring in one of the rookies that they have as the backup to Chubb. They want to keep Johnson around. And as I've said many a times, I think Kareem Hunt's going to get traded in the offseason and Johnson's going to stay there, and he's a phenomenal receiving back, but Chubb can do that as well. I do think that Johnson is going to be, if he stays, more of the receiving back than Chubb, but I think with the amount of workload that he is going to get running the ball and his talent, he is going to be a phenomenal running back this year and finish just outside the top 5. Now we're here at 5. I'm right about that, I believe. Who do you have at number 5?
I'm going to be surprised if our top 5 is not almost exactly alike.
Well, I mean, it has to be, because there's no way you don't have the same 5 that I do. I'm just very interested to see if we have the same order.
Yeah, now I'd like to think we do, but we probably our top 3 are probably going to be switched around a little bit. At 5, I've got David Johnson.
Okay, so yeah, we're already switched up, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Very nice. I want to believe in Johnson that he's going to bounce back even higher, but I'm not 100% sold on a rookie quarterback with a couple rookie wide receivers and a rookie head coach bringing in a college offense. So I'm not 100% sold. I think if Cliff Kingsbury learned nothing in college, he has to look at last year's tape from the first half of the season or whatever it was, and he learned that Mike McCoy's run David Johnson up the middle against an 8 and 9 man box is not the way to go.
Yeah.
So DJ is an outstanding pass catcher. He's a great runner. He's got great vision. He can see the hole. St. Louis, Arizona has to fix some of their offensive line woes that they had last year. Some of it, I think, is going to be fixed just by getting healthy, but some of it is going to need to be schemed. And hopefully they can do that and that they get David Johnson in space. I think Johnson is in line to get a lot of touches this year. Maybe more targets than we expect, and his touches come that way. But he's an exceptionally good pass-catching back. So I have David Johnson at number 5.
I have Alvin Kamara at 5. So obviously he finished as running back 4 last year with 354 points. And I do think Kamara is going to have a great year. I'm not necessarily believing that he's going to be a workhorse back. I don't think he's built for that, but he is a phenomenal receiving threat, and he is just extremely hard to bring down in the open field. Dude has got moves for days. It's ridiculous. I think he is an awesome running back, and the only reason I have him at 5 is because I just believe in the other 4 more above him. I know that the Saints are going to be possibly a Super Bowl team, and maybe they lean more heavily on the run, especially with the lack of receiving options that they have. But I do think that with bringing Latavius Murray in, he's going to get some of that rushing work, and I do think he's actually going to get some of that goal line work, although Alvin Kamara did get more red zone work than Mark Ingram did, which is a little bit surprising when I found that out, but I still think Latavius Murray is going to eat in and vulture enough touchdowns from Alvin Kamara to allow my top 4 to get into the top 4. So who do you have it for?
I have Kamara at 4.
Right.
He's not, I agree, he's not built to carry the ball 25 times, but he is an exceptionally dynamic back. And so if he's getting 15 carries and 6 to 10 targets, he's shown that he's going to be a top tier back. For me, him and Johnson are clearly in the second tier. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put. Boy, I'm stuttering and staggering here. I think I'm going to go Kamara and Johnson in tier 2 alone, then mixing Gurley, Bell, Chubb in the next tier. But I like Kamara. I think he's shown that, he's good in the red zone. He's good in the red zone because he's got great vision and he's exceptionally good at avoiding tackles. He can get away. He can juke like nobody's business. He's one of the best ankle breakers in the NFL. So for him, I think he's going to get probably more rushing touchdowns than we imagine, because he does get those red zone carries. It's scheme versatility. When he's out there, you can throw the ball to him, you can run the ball with him. And so that sets your offense up to do multiple things because you don't have to telegraph. If they put Latavius Murray in, much like last year when they put Mark Ingram in, the defense knew the running back's either going to run the ball or they're going to throw the ball. Versus when you have Kamara in there, they could run. That running back can run it or the running back can catch it. So they can do multiple things. I like Kamara at 4.
Yeah, so I have Johnson at 4. I don't disagree with anything you said. I do think that he's going to have a phenomenal year again. He finished his RB9 last year with really extremely bad offense and mostly guys pulled off the street at offensive line. If any of those guys can stay healthy that they lost last year, I think their offensive line is going to be better. I do think Kyler Murray is going to help open things up for him. He is not afraid to dump it down. Ask Trey Sermon out of Oklahoma. Dude was phenomenal last year. Was a good receiving threat, and I think David Johnson's even better. So I think Johnson will be able to get some good receiving work from Kyler Murray. I think Murray's going to help open things up because of Larry Fitz. You got Christian Kirk back healthy. I think those guys are going to be great down the field threats, opening hopefully some lanes there for David Johnson as well, and them not having to load the box. So I think Johnson bounces back and has himself a phenomenal year. So that's who I have at number 4. Let's get down to the top 3. It's probably, not even probably, it has to be the same for anybody. I don't want to be a jerk here, but if you don't have these 3 guys in your top 3, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, these are the top 3 running backs in fantasy. I do think that there is a fair argument to be made for each one of them, though, to be at number 1. So who do you have at 3?
Well, at number 3, it's probably going to shock you. But I have Rashad Penny.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry, I kill me. I have Christian McCaffrey at number 3.
Okay, so do I.
I think he has RB1 potential. He's an exceptional, much like Kamara, he's an exceptional receiver. I think he's better at running the ball than Kamara, and that shows in the number of touches he gets carrying the ball. But Norv Turner did come out today and say that they needed to be smart with Christian McCaffrey's touches. I don't know that they have anybody backing him up that playing over McCaffrey is the quote-unquote smart move. Cameron Artis-Payne, Jordan Scarlett, and Elijah Holyfield, I don't think you're going to mistake any of them as 3-down backs. But, if one of them shows that they're competent in getting, short yardage first downs, then maybe it makes sense to give them some first or second down work, to give them some short yardage carries and not have McCaffrey take that beating. But, McCaffrey is, he's really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he's built. He's not one of those big guys. He put on some weight. He's put on some muscle, but I don't know that he's set up to be able to carry the ball between the tackles 20 times a game.
Yeah, I mean, I for the most part agree with everything you just said. The only thing I differ on is I think McCaffrey can do anything. This dude is just a baller. I can't. I see no faults or anything in his game. The only reason I have him behind the two that I do is I think they're going to end up scoring more touchdowns than one of them is going to score more touchdowns, and I think the other one is just because he is literally the only option that offense has. And by far the best player on that entire team, it seems like at this point with the amount of injuries and everything else they have going on, that I think he's just going to get so much work that he's going to outproduce McCaffrey. Though, as you said, I agree with you. There is no doubt in my mind that he could end up being the RB1 this season. But for right now, I'm going to put him at 3. Who do you have at 2?
At 2, I have Saquon Barkley.
Okay, interesting. So do I. So we have the same top 3.
Yeah, as much as I like Barkley, as much talent as he has, he is going to be in that situation, kind of like David Johnson last year, where that's all it is. They're going to have Golden Tate and Saquon Barkley is very similar to David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald last year. So, while I like Barkley's talent, being a couple years younger than Elliott, I just think he's in an offense that's going to handicap him and put him in position to where they have to give him the ball and hope he can just make a play, because the rest of the team isn't good enough to put him in positive situations. So I love Barkley's talent, and he's certainly going to get opportunities this year. I feel like the offense in general is going to handicap him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that 100%. He, like I said, everybody knew who I was talking about when I just mentioned him above McCaffrey. I just think that touchdowns are going to regress a little bit here because I don't think that offense is going to get in the red zone enough to allow him to score. Though he does have the ability to score just by touching the ball anywhere on the field. I do think his touchdowns are going to regress some. So that means number 1, we both have Ezekiel Elliott. Again, this is obviously us both assuming he doesn't hold out and plays the full season. So give me your breakdown on why you think Zeke is going to be number 1.
Well, he's much like Barkley or McCaffrey. He's the guy in that offense from the backfield spot. The other running backs just don't compare. Tony Pollard may be a Duke Johnson-esque receiving back, but Zeke Elliott caught a shit ton of passes last year. They've got Amari Cooper, and I expect a big growth year from Michael Gallup. They've got Randall Cobb in the slot. Dak is a competent quarterback. I know you bash on him a lot. I think Dak is going to have a career year this year, in part because they're going to have a very balanced offense, and they're going to be able to take some shots. But Zeke Elliott he's the engine that makes that motor go, and they don't have his extension is going to get done. It's not going to get done before the season starts, because when it comes to extensions, Dak, Amari, and Zeke, that's the priority. And while Amari is not he's not, not Amari, where Dak is not going to set the quarterback bar, a new quarterback record, and he shouldn't, but he should be around QB5, QB6 in salary. I think that's what he brings to the table. That's what the market bears for him. I think Amari and Dak are a year along in their contracts. Zeke, if he doesn't come in by August 6th, his contract tolls. It doesn't get him any closer to free agency. So, and they've got to figure something out with him, because he has the personality from what I've seen in his time at Ohio State and what I've seen in his time in Dallas. if they don't get a contract done next year, he'll sit out next year. He'll be like, screw it. I'm going to Mexico, and I'm going to hang out on the beach, and y'all can write whatever you want about me. So it's in their best interest to extend him, but he's going to get a running back extension. He's not going to get, a wide receiver or quarterback extension, and he's not going to get it before they do the extensions with Cooper and with Prescott.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he doesn't sit out, he's been the leading rusher. Obviously, both years that he played full 16 games. The other year, the only reason he didn't make it is because he was suspended for 6 games. The only thing that has held him back, too, is touchdowns. He's just, for some reason, not scored a lot of touchdowns. I think that's going to up this year. Again, if he plays all 16 games, which we are assuming he will do, at least this year. I think Zeke is in it for phenomenal years. You talked about he caught a bunch of passes. It was 70 last year. That's ridiculous. And nobody thought that Zeke would be catching 70 passes, and I think it's going to be right around that as well. So he's going to be a huge PPR threat this year. And again, if the touchdowns go up at all, he should blow everybody out of the water and put up close to what Todd Gurley's godlike numbers looked like just a couple years ago. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for us today. Before we cut out of here, a couple housekeeping notes. This might be the only episode that goes up live this week. Me and Dennis have a special guest joining us on Thursday. We are going to be doing a full college preview show, and due to the length and amount of topics we want to touch on in that episode, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get it up to you guys by Thursday or Friday, so I may save both of those for the next week. We'll probably have to cut it into 2 episodes because we're literally going to touch on every single conference, every single team, and a bunch of prospects for you guys to start watching now for your preparation for the 2020 draft. And if any of you are thinking about joining some Devy leagues before the college football season starts, we'll get you covered there as well. So again,
I can't wait to break down the Patriot League.
Oh yeah, it's going to be super awesome. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to. We hate to disappoint you guys because we know we've been putting out 2 episodes pretty much all off season, but this is just. It's going to be so much content, and I don't want to rush it. It's going to be a phenomenal couple episodes coming up with our guest here. So this might be it. I might be able to get one up Thursday, so I don't want to commit to saying this will be the only one, but it likely will be. Other than that's really it. We are obviously Thursday have the first preseason game, technically the Hall of Fame game. So football is back. I do want to throw this out there. Me and Dennis have been talking about this a little bit in the off season. So due to our schedules, when the season starts, we will be going to a 5-day-a-week podcast like I did myself back in the beginning of last year when we first started this up. Dennis will be joining me Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for kind of all the breakdown stuff, and then obviously all the preview stuff Friday. If anyone has any interest in possibly joining me to talk on Mondays and Thursdays, hit me up on Twitter at SportsFanaticMB or send something to Dennis. We'd love to have you on an episode with us during the preseason and talk, and if you like it, and we can work something out, we'd love to have someone jump on so it's not just me talking football Mondays and Thursdays, but that's just due to, again, our schedules. We want to be able to get something out before the games Monday night and Thursday night come out so that you guys can adjust your lineups accordingly based on that. We'll definitely get Dennis's Thursday night previews on Wednesday, but then if anything breaking happens on Thursday, we want to be able to adjust our thoughts on that. So, again, if anybody is interested, hit us up on Twitter. We're looking for someone to possibly join us. If not, we'll run with what we've got. Obviously, me, Dennis, will be having a lot of fun and some really, just information-packed episodes Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Friday, especially Fridays. Fridays, I think, are going to be the fun episodes for both of us because it did get a little, I'm sure, just kind of boring with me ranting on and on about certain games Fridays. It's going to be fun having both of us on there and breaking games down, especially with the different ways we look at certain players. So I'm excited for that. So, Dennis, before we cut out of here, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and if you've got anything coming up with the Nerd Herd.
Well, you can find me at culture_coach. I'm always lurking around, retweeting polls, answering questions. Feel free to shoot me a DM if you have any questions. We got, we're putting out a couple articles a day over at Dynasty Nerds on if you haven't joined the Nerd Herd, you should get on in there. for the price of a coffee. Well, that's easy for me to say. For the price of a cup of coffee a month, you get extra podcasts from Rich and Garrett and Matt. You get all of our consensus rankings. You can break them down. There's standard rankings. There's Devy rankings. There's rookie rankings. There's PPR, tight end premium rankings. It's super flex rankings. There's rankings galore. You get the buy sell tool. You can see what do all of us writers and podcasters over at Dynasty Nerds, what do we think you should do with guys? Should you buy them? Should you sell them? Should you hold them? You get all of that fun information. And we just started talking about something new we might be rolling out for the Nerd Herd with that includes seasonal projections. So those will be something we're potentially going to be putting out. And then we've got, Rich talks about coming up soon, the mock draft tool that will be live. It'll adjust the rankings every time a draft occurs. The rankings will get updated. So, that'll be coming soon as well.
Yeah, all that is definitely worth the cup of coffee that it cost a month there to get it, guys. I'm telling you, it's worth every single penny. Don't waste any more time. Just go out there and do it. It'll be well worth your time, and you'll win multiple championships. And again, then you'll just be able to keep paying for the thing because your winnings from your fantasy leagues will be like 10 times what it costs to be a member of the Nerd Herd. So, obviously, I had a Devy article put out recently if you're in Devy Leagues. If you're not, check it out. And I had a link in there to Mr. Garrett Price's thoughts on Devy Leagues as well. Check that out. It's a lot more fun. Something I think is going to catch on big in the next couple years. The way I would equate it is to the IDPs and what Superflexes were a couple years ago. Not a lot of people were talking about them, and now it seems like everybody's jumping into IDP and Superflex leagues. I do think that's the way that Devy is heading. It's a very fun league. I actually just joined my first few Devy leagues this year, and it's already been a ton of fun. So I appreciate the love on that article if you guys have time to read it. Other than that, you guys can catch me at SportsFanaticMB on Twitter. Again, hit me up with any of your fantasy questions, or if you just want to tell me how wrong I am, I appreciate that too. And Dennis, again, thank you so much for joining me today, and we're looking forward to having our special guest on Thursday.
Right on.
Prepare for glory!
I want to know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
I came out the womb, I was ready.
And he's hit the end zone for an unbelievable touchdown.
I would be honored if you played football for this team.
Throw it up above his head. They can't jump at me. Golly.
Oh, they tackle him at the 40-yard line.
Who can make a play? I can. Who can make a play? I can.
There's a right time to find out if you have the right insurance. And it's not when you have a fender bender or frozen pipes. No, the best time is before something goes wrong. Like when you first talk to a AAA insurance agent. And they're taking the time to get to know what you need. So that if the unexpected happens to your car or home, you won't get unexpected answers. Talk to a AAA insurance agent at your local AAA store today. Or visit AAA.com/insurance to learn more about AAA.
Geico presents Yikes! Another voicemail from your roommate.
Sup, roomie? Hey, a pipe burst in the basement. It's completely flooded. Anyway, I called for someone to fix it, but in the meantime, I was thinking we could finally have that indoor pool party we've always wanted. I got some cool swan floaty things already going. Could you pick up some chips on your way home? Later.
The Geico Insurance Agency could help keep your personal property protected, like if your roommate isn't the brightest pool float in the flooded basement. Visit geico.com to see how easy it is to switch and save on renter's insurance.